I think once the thing continues to grow, I think it's really going to create some interest overseas as well. But, you know, when TJ Perkins was down, I know that was like a really big deal.
Wow. Yeah.
Obviously, he being Filipino as well. So, like, it was a really special moment to see. And I think potentially there could be a lot more WWE stars that, like, come down there and check it out once it starts popping.
Wow. I mean, you know, we can't wait to see you back in the PWR ring.
Oh, I can't wait.
What is up, guys? Diego Prime here, back again with another video, and I'm back again with another interview segment on my YouTube channel, and I am very excited for this one because today joining me is a former NWA Australian champion, former AAW tag team champion, and an AAW champion. And he has competed all around the world, including the Philippines. And he is one of the members of the stable called the Foundation. And currently, he is now the director of operations of Ambition Wrestling. So without further ado, guys, please welcome my guest for today, Andrew the Shark Carter. Andrew, what's good? And happy holidays to you.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here as well. It's a crazy time of the year, but wrestling just keeps going. So it's fun to talk to everyone in the business.
All right. So first of all, Andrew, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for dropping by and spending the time for this interview. So, I'm pretty excited to have this conversation with you, man. So it is really an honor to have you on the show. So really appreciate it, man.
Oh, anytime, man. Look forward to it.
All right. So let's get started. So first of all, Andrew, this is the question that I usually ask to my guests to kick things off. How are you? How is the situation of the coronavirus there in Australia?
It's always up and down. We're really affected at the start of it in 2020 or towards the end of 2019, I suppose, when it was becoming more and more prevalent here. So we lost a lot of shows back in 2020. Where I am on the west coast of Australia, our borders are actually completely shut, even to the rest of Australia. So nobody from, the east coast of Australia could come over. So it made shows quite difficult, but in a way we were also quite lucky because our coronavirus cases here were very low. I think the most we had at one time was like 15 to 20. Like it was very, very low, and there was a lot of restrictions. But that meant life on our side sort of continued a lot. So wrestling started to come back in fashion. So we had a pretty normal sort of set of lives. But on February the 5th, the West Australian border is going to open up to the rest of the world and to the rest of Australia. So we'll see what happens when that takes place. But hopefully it's all for the best, so we can start getting some more wrestlers down here, and our wrestlers can go and travel finally. So it's hopefully starting to get back to a little bit of normality.
That's good to hear. But you know what? Here in the Philippines, our wrestling shows here are still canceled. But but great news is we're kind of back to normal a little bit. So we're still praying that when the doors are finally opened, the Philippine wrestling scene is going to be better as usual. So next question, so Andrew, when did you start being a fan of wrestling?
So I kind of went in two waves. So when I was really, really young, I was probably about 6 or 7, I sort of got my first taste of wrestling. But like my parents and family members weren't big fans. So when it was on, they were kind of like, nah, let's watch something else. So I never really got into it probably until my early teens when The Rock came onto the scene. So it was probably around 98. And The Rock, he just drew me to wrestling. As soon as I saw an interview with him, I was like, wow, what is this about? And just the way he spoke and the matches, the entertainment. And I was like, oh man, and I was hooked from that moment. I watched every single Raw and SmackDown, whatever I could get access to, pretty much after that. So pretty much from 98 onwards is when I was really like a hardcore wrestling fan.
Oh, so you mentioned The Rock. So do you consider The Rock as your favorite wrestler? And also, can you share to us who are your favorite wrestlers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was the reason I wanted to become a wrestler in the first place. He was just so
Oh, it's
entertaining, and
interesting.
just the charisma and like the way he did his matches. Like he was the one that really sort of like sucked me in. And then once I was in the business, there was others I really appreciated, like Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels were huge influences over me as well. And then I always loved The Undertaker. So that those guys from that era, like they're the ones that really inspired me to get into the business.
So those guys you've mentioned are, legendary, if you know what I mean. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what made you realize that you want to be in the wrestling industry?
Well, I was always very good at other sports. Like I actually had a pretty good soccer career happening here in
Oh,
my youth before I really got into wrestling. But it's just never had any other passions except wrestling. Like I was really good at things athletically, and you know I wanted to play them, but I was just always like, I want to try wrestling. I have to try wrestling. If I don't try wrestling, I feel like my whole life would be wasted. So I actually started doing amateur wrestling to start off. So like Kurt Angle
mm.
used to do in the Olympics. So that sort of prepared me for when I was old enough to enter pro wrestling. And then I won 2 state gold medals for Olympic wrestling.
Oh,
So I was really doing
that's
really well at
cool.
that, but I still just really wanted to break into the pro wrestling. So I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to find the best school, and I'm going to try and learn off the best. And I decided to go to Lance Storm School in Canada once I was ready. So in 2008, I moved over to Canada and trained with Lance Storm, and that's how I got my start in
Awesome.
wrestling.
That's an interesting start right there. So, before we proceed, as you've mentioned, you've been trained by Landstorm. I just want to ask, do you still remember your very first wrestling match?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. One of the first ones I did was actually in Perth before I went to Lance's. And it was just, yeah, it was like a crazy experience. It was just, yeah, like not knowing what to expect and learning different things. And I don't know, like at the time, it was probably the most exciting thing ever. But like, obviously looking back now, it's like, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. But yeah, it was just I just always remember the butterflies and just the nervousness in my stomach before I went out. And then once like you enter that curtain, it was just like the whole world just changed. It was, the butterflies went away, and you switch on and become this character. And I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do.
So that's good. So yeah, you've mentioned Lance Storm, which is your trainer, and Lance Storm, he has been to a lot of wrestling companies like WWE, ECW, and WCW. So I just want to ask, how does it feel to be trained someone like Lance Storm, and do you still remember or can you still recall his advice?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think Lance is probably regarded as probably one of the best trainers in pro wrestling. He's in the ring. He was so crisp. He was so good at what he did. And then as a trainer as well, he was so focused on the students. Like he would always get in the ring with us. He didn't have like an assistant that told us what to do. Like he was the one going into the ring, getting slammed by us, slamming us. But yeah, it was just surreal to have that guy that you watched on TV that you're like, oh my god, Lance Storm, and all of a sudden like he's in the ring like training you. So the first few weeks was, I guess, getting over the starstruck of that's Lance Storm teaching us. You very quickly, after taking a few bumps, realize, okay, this is pretty serious. It's time to focus on what we're doing. But I mean, there was so much advice that he would give. It wasn't just wrestling. He would give us sort of like life advice and how to look after yourselves on the road and things like that. So he was yeah, it was a very dedicated trainer.
I agree that Lance Storm was very passionate and I agree what you said. You're very dedicated in what you do, and that is very important when if you're going to try out for wrestling, and also if you're going to be in the wrestling business. So all right, so um you've been facing a lot of wrestling veterans, especially those ones in WWE, Impact Wrestling, and what I mean by that, guys like Rob Van Dam, Tommy Dreamer, Orlando Jordan, and Christopher Daniels, if I remember it correctly. So there is actually one fan question that is very interesting. So our fan question is from Audrey Bernice Chu, and her question is, how was it that you were able to face wrestlers from different major promotions?
Well, it's pretty much just luck at the time. I think one of the, besides Rob Van Dam, I think the match with Alberto Del Rio was really big because at the time he was the WWE champion, and I think he was feuding with CM Punk at the time, and
Yeah,
he literally just left. Like he dropped the belt and left, and he was fresh. Like I think we had him down here pretty much after his 90-day no compete clause, so it was a really big deal to have that match. But I think at the time here, I probably had the most experience from other performers and wrestlers, like obviously working overseas and having WWE tryouts and things like that. So the higher key matches, I was always very lucky to get the opportunity to be the one to take on those guys.
So you mentioned, CM Punk and Alberto Del Rio. I think that was during their feud in 2011, I believe. If I
I think that's what it was.
Right. Now, you've already faced several. Like I said, you've already faced several wrestlers who are who are from different wrestling promotions. So, uh, I just want to ask, which match would you consider as your favorite one?
Well, I mean, there's a couple. Like the match with Christopher Daniels, I really enjoyed, and that was actually for the Ring of Honor Championship as well. So that was quite a big deal down this way. Obviously, the match with Del Rio was huge, but I think in terms of like the match I enjoyed the most was probably my match with RVD. We just had a lot of chemistry together, and I think the match flowed really well, and the crowd really liked it. So it was a really fun match to have.
So, would you consider those matches as, a challenging one for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure for those matches. But yeah, just I think at that time I'd been wrestling for probably over 10 years, so I had a lot more confidence in wrestling guys like that. So yeah,
That's good to hear. And so right now, this is actually the question that that I'm very excited to ask you, and it is your PWR experience as one of the members of the foundation. You've competed for the PWR Championship against Quatro, and if I'm not mistaken, that was the main event of PWR Renaissance, which took place 2 years ago. So I just want to ask, how was it feel? How was the experience that you were stepping inside the PWR ring against Quatro for the PWR Championship?
well, it's interesting because I didn't really know what to expect because I'm very good friends with Julio and Marco, who are like from the Philippines, and they were the ones that actually really encouraged me to check out the Philippines and PWR. They're like, I'm gonna come show you like my home country and like my family and stuff over here. So initially the trip was really more about like going to support them. So I didn't really know what to expect. And once we walked into like the locker room and experienced like the fans over there, it was just mind blowing. The scene over there was really impressive. Like I said, going in with not much expectation, just thinking maybe it's another indie show. Like I thought the quality of not only the performers but like the production and how it was all put together and just how electric the fans were that night. Like it was really a special moment for me and probably one of my favorite trips. I've wrestled in America and Canada and like Malaysia and South Korea and all these different places, but just the atmosphere there and the locker room was just so much fun to be a part of. So yeah, if coronavirus wasn't a thing, I reckon we would have been there.
Coronavirus, the coronavirus, it's kind of screwed up and it just ruined everything, All right. So, if ever you will, if ever you will return to the as a pro wrestler, is there any chance that if the Philippine wrestling scene is to open its doors again and you're gonna have another match in PWR?
Oh, in a heartbeat. Yeah, I'd love to go back in a heartbeat. Yeah.
And we can.
And I think once the thing continues to grow, I think it's really going to create some interest overseas as well. But you know, when TJ Perkins was down, I know that was like a really big deal.
Wow. Yeah.
Obviously, he being Filipino as well, so like it was a really special moment to see. And I think potentially there could be a lot more WWE stars that like come down there and check it out once it starts popping.
Wow. I mean, you know, we can't wait to see you back in the PWR ring.
Oh, I can't wait.
So, Andrew, for you, how would you describe Filipino wrestling fans?
Oh man, it was absolutely electric. Again, you know, I wasn't expecting. I thought it'd just be another sort of indie show, but like the fans were so passionate; they were really into the show itself. So they knew like all the performers, all the wrestlers, like what they did. I think they just appreciated the work that was going on in the ring as well. So like, you know, you could have the heels that were the bad guys that would get booed, but everybody still appreciated what they were doing. So it was just such a unique environment to be a part of. And the way it was set up, we were really close to the action too. So when we went outside the ring, like right there next to the fans, they could like, you know, it felt like they were involved. And yeah, it was just loud and electric. And yeah, like I said, ended up being one of my favorite tours because of that atmosphere in there.
I agree with what you said, you know, just like, you know, The Rock's catchphrase, the electric.
Oh, it really was. Like, you know, you go to some shows and people like just wait and they're quiet and, you know, they start to warm up a little bit, but like from the get-go, you know, like they were just into it as soon as that first match kicked off. And it was like, wow, this is crazy. I mean, I think the first match, Julio and Marco were in like a tag match. And like the place was going crazy. And I said to Quatro, I was like, man, we have to step it up now. Like they're really going out there. Like they're destroying it. The fans are killing it. I was like, man, you got a main event. You know, we got pressure now. Like I went to up our game. So we had to, So we put everything out there because of how good the fans were. Like it was so electric. It energized us to go out there as well.
Yeah, I really agree with you, man. So, you know, pro wrestling is all about engaging the fans. So, it is, you know, to have an awesome show. You know, fans should be, you know, in attendance. So they should witness how can I say this? You know how great wrestling shows is going to be, and you know.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's such a huge part of it too. That if like fans never gone to a show before, you know, being in that environment, being a part of that group to watch and engage, it makes you want to come back. And that's, you know, not just for the performers, but from a fan's point of view as well. And so I think it's definitely an awesome experience to have there.
Yeah, it is an awesome moment, and especially you and Quatro facing for the PWR Championship. And I must say that is one of my favorite international matches I've seen in PWR.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
All right. So if ever you're going to return to as a pro wrestler, do you have any, you know, wrestlers that you would still love to face?
Oh man, especially nowadays, yeah, there's still quite a few. I don't know if I could name anyone off my list right now, but like obviously a dream match would be against CM Punk. I think that would be absolutely awesome. Obviously, that's probably very hard to achieve.
Yeah.
Schedule, but yeah, I mean, there's so many people that are breaking into the scene too with a lot of potential. So I think over the next 5 years, we'll probably see a lot more names popping up that are like, wow, I really want to do something with this guy, or, you know, this is going to be the next big thing. So yeah, I think we're going to have to give it some time, and there's going to be a whole list of opponents ready.
I agree. CM Punk is, you know, I guess he has I probably say he has, you know, the greatest comeback in pro wrestling history after 7 years.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it was very well done as well.
Yeah, CM Punk is, you know, I must say, he has the greatest comeback in pro wrestling, especially for this year in 2021. So,
yeah, I think Punk is probably like the last major star that really as well that kind of broke out on his own.
Yeah.
So to finally have him back in wrestling, it's like, yes, we've got one of our boys back. You know?
And the crowd was really loud at that time. It was at AEW Rampage, and if I'm not mistaken, it was I think it was an entry for the Guinness Book of World Records. If
Oh, surely, yeah, surely.
it's because of the crowd,
Yeah.
as we talked about earlier. All right, um, so Andrew, you've been wrestling quite a while, and I just want to ask, for those people who are dreaming to work in the wrestling industry someday, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, look, it is a tough industry to break into, but it's also one of the most exciting and rewarding once you get there. So there is a lot of heartbreak, but at the same time, there's lows, but there's also like amazing highs. But if you want to get into it, the best advice I can have is maybe before you get into wrestling, have some sort of like MMA background, which might sound a bit strange, but a lot of the stuff we do from pro wrestling actually evolves from like judo and amateur wrestling. So any sort of like, judo, amateur wrestling, like any sort of mixed martial arts with like takedowns and grappling, you probably want to start off with that to see if it is for you, because the physicality is very similar. And if you find that that's cool and you're happy with that, then obviously there's some good wrestling schools around. It's fun, but it is painful. There is, a lot of risk and injuries that come with the territory. And so like I said, there is highs and lows, but if you want it, you really have to give everything to it. You can't go in, 50%, go, maybe I'll try wrestling. Like it has to be, I want to do wrestling, and that has to be the mindset. Otherwise, you'll find it. There's lots of people that are willing to take that spot if you don't. So you definitely got to work hard.
What is important is you're very passionate of what you're doing, and of course, never giving up. So thank you for that advice,
Exactly,
Andrew. And that is all. So Andrew, do you have anything to promote, and of course your social media, so everyone can follow you?
Yeah, well, basically, I'm working with a company here in Perth called Southern Territory Wrestling, and another company called Ambition Wrestling. So we've just kicked off all the socials. We've run our first show with Southern Territory Wrestling back in October, and we're looking forward to another one in January. So just check out Southern Territory Wrestling and Ambition Wrestling on Facebook and Instagram, and you'll find us.
Thank you. So of course, as usual, you can also follow me on social media, Twitter and Instagram, at Diego_Prime. And Andrew, if I'm not mistaken, this is actually my last interview segment for this year, and I'm very fortunate to have you here as as my last guest for the year. So thank you so much, Andrew, and really appreciate for your time. So thank you again.
Thank you, and hope you have a happy new year since I'm the last guest.
Yeah. So happy holidays to you, man, and I hope you're staying safe, and also good luck also to your wrestling career. And as the director of operations of Ambition Wrestling, so thank you so much again, man, and stay safe.
Absolutely, you too. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is Diego Prime. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.